Ambassador Kalani had lived a long life among the stars. For 40 years, he had represented his people in the Galactic Federation, an alliance of hundreds of different species. He had seen many things during his career. He had been present when a new civilization first joined the Federation. And he had also witnessed the fall of once great empires that could not survive the endless struggles of interstellar politics. He had seen wars prevented with careful words, and he had seen others begin because of one careless mistake. Yet in all his decades of service, nothing had prepared him for the humans. On this particular day, the humans were young compared to the other members of the Federation. They had only been exploring space for about 30 years, barely the blink of an eye in galactic history. Yet somehow, in that short time, they had already colonized 17 worlds and built a fleet of sleek exploration vessels. Their progress was shocking. Many older species had taken centuries, even millennia, to reach such achievements. Kalani studied them with his 4 dark eyes, searching for clues in their expressions. Humans were not easy to read. Their faces seemed calm and polite, but something about their quiet confidence unsettled him. They had not come here to request trade rights or cultural exchanges, as many young civilizations did. Today, they had come with a bolder request. They wanted a military partnership with the Galactic Federation. "Your technological progress is impressive," Kalani admitted, scanning the datapad before him. "But the Federation has strict rules when it comes to military cooperation. Before we can even consider such a request, we must understand your combat capabilities." The human leader, Captain Maria Santos, inclined her head respectfully. Her dark eyes glimmered with a strange determination. "Of course, Ambassador. We have prepared a demonstration of our primary fighter craft." Kalani raised his brow ridges. "Excellent. What is this vessel called?" There was a pause, and Captain Santos spoke 2 words that made the entire room fall silent. "The Galactic Destroyer." For a moment, no one moved. The translator implants clicked and hummed, struggling as if even the machines doubted the accuracy of the words. Across the table, several alien representatives exchanged disbelieving looks. Some twitched their antennae nervously, others hissed softly in their native tongues. Commander Vexer of the Regalian Defense Corps leaned forward, his scaled face stretched into something close to amusement. "I am sorry. Did you just say Galactic Destroyer?" Captain Santos simply smiled. "That's correct." Kalani felt a chill creep through him. Humans had chosen a name that was bold, even arrogant. And yet, from the way they sat so calmly, Kalani suspected that the name was not an exaggeration. It was a promise. The words Galactic Destroyer echoed through the pristine conference room. For a long moment, no one spoke. Even the background hum of the life support system seemed quieter, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Ambassador Kalani shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He had heard strange ship names before: Wings of Peace, Blade of Dawn, Eternal Voyager, but nothing as bold as this. Across the table, alien delegates stared at the humans with wide eyes, unable to decide if they were joking or deadly serious. Commander Vexer of the Regalian Defense Corps broke the silence first. His deep, scaled voice rumbled like grinding stone. "A single-pilot fighter craft," he said slowly, "and you dare to call it the Galactic Destroyer?" Captain Maria Santos did not flinch. Her calm smile remained in place, though her eyes revealed a spark of amusement. "That is correct." A murmur spread across the room. Lieutenant Zarwin of the Andromedan fleet tapped quickly on his datapad, pulling up the specifications that had been shared with the Federation. His voice cracked in disbelief. 17 meters long, mass of 40 tons. Barely the size of a Federation shuttle. How could such a small craft deserve such a terrifying name? The humans exchanged glances. Kalani noticed it immediately, the silent communication, the knowing look that passed between them. It was not arrogance, nor nervousness. It was something far more unsettling: confidence. They knew something the others did not, and that secret seemed to weigh heavily in the air. Finally, Captain Santos spoke again, her voice steady and polite. "Perhaps, Ambassador, it would be better if we showed you." The words sent another ripple of unease through the room. Kalani's 4 eyes narrowed. The human's tone was not one of boasting or threat. It was closer to a teacher preparing to reveal a lesson. Kalani tried to calm himself with reason. Surely this was just a cultural misunderstanding. Humans were still new to the stars. Perhaps their naming traditions were simply dramatic. A fighter ship called Galactic Destroyer could be no more threatening than a harmless insect named Death Beetle. Names did not always match reality. But when Kalani glanced around the table, he realized he was not the only one struggling to believe that. Dozens of representatives from different species shifted in their seats. The crystalline delegate Windar flickered nervously. The serpent-like ambassador, Visser coiled and uncoiled his tail in agitation. Even the usually fearless General Zarek of the warrior caste leaned forward, his armor plates rattling faintly with unease. Captain Santos folded her hands neatly on the table. We request the chance to demonstrate the full capabilities of the Galactic Destroyer. That way, there will be no doubts and no misunderstandings. Kalani swallowed hard. He had seen demonstrations before. New weapons, advanced shields, powerful ships. But there was something about the way the humans asked. They were polite, calm, and almost casual. Yet their words carried the weight of a challenge. For the first time in his career, Kalani realized he was afraid not of what he knew, but of what he didn't. 3 hours later, Ambassador Kalani stood on the wide observation deck of Federation Station Alpha 7. Outside the massive windows, the blackness of space stretched forever, sprinkled with cold stars. But today, those stars would witness something unforgettable. The human fighter, the so-called Galactic Destroyer, floated ahead of the Federation fleet. First glance, it looked almost fragile. Its sleek, angular frame was dwarfed by the massive battleships and cruisers surrounding it. To the untrained eye, it seemed impossible that this tiny vessel could live up to its terrifying name. "Target acquired," came a calm voice over the communication channel. Lieutenant Commander Jackson Hayes, the test pilot, sounded almost bored, as if this were nothing more than a routine flight. The target was an abandoned Centauri Republic station, a floating ruin roughly the size of a small moon. It had been lifeless for decades, stripped of any value except for training and weapons tests. Perfect, Kalani thought. No risk, no loss. Just a demonstration, engaging target, Hayes reported. Kalani expected to see the usual display bright plasma beams, sizzling particle weapons, maybe a missile barrage. Instead, the tiny fighter released a single projectile. It was so small that Kalani nearly missed it against the backdrop of space. A dark speck, drifting almost lazily toward the massive station. Confusion rippled through the Federation observers. Some whispered, others scoffed. Commander Vexer snorted in disbelief. That's it? A single round? A joke, surely? But then it hit. At first, nothing happened. The derelict station floated silently, unchanged. Kalani almost believed the weapon had failed. But then, he saw it. The station began to bend. Massive beams designed to withstand meteors and radiation storms twisted as if they were made of clay. Walls crumpled inward. Entire sections folded like paper. The impossible was happening before his eyes. "Gravitational anomaly detected," shouted the tactical officer of the Federation flagship. His voice was tight with alarm. A massive gravitational field forming at the impact site. Kalani's blood ran cold. It wasn't a bomb. It wasn't a laser. It was something far worse. The station collapsed faster and faster, crumbling into itself as though dragged by an unseen hand. Within minutes, millions of tons of metal and machinery compressed into a dense sphere, barely 100 meters across. Then, horrifyingly, it began pulling nearby asteroids toward itself. "Artificial black hole," whispered Dr. Yolandra, the Federation's chief astrophysicist. Her face was pale, her voice shaking. "The humans have created an artificial black hole." A brilliant flash lit the darkness, and then silence. The station, the compressed matter, even the sphere itself, it's all gone, erased from existence. "Target neutralized," Hayes said calmly over the comms, returning to base. The observation deck fell silent. Kalani felt his legs weaken as he stared into the empty void where the station had once been. It wasn't just destroyed. It was gun-swallowed by a weapon that should not even exist. For the first time in his 40 years of service, Ambassador Kalani was speechless. The name Galactic Destroyer suddenly seemed far too small. The observation deck was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Only the soft hum of the life support systems filled the air. Ambassador Kalani's 4 eyes were locked on the empty space where the abandoned station had once floated. The humans had erased it with a single shot. Not just destroyed erased. Kalani forced his voice to work. "How?" he whispered. Captain Maria Santos, who had been watching the demonstration with the calm interest of a teacher grading a student, finally turned to face him. "Controlled singularity warhead," she explained as though it were the simplest thing in the universe. "We compress a small amount of exotic matter using a localized space-time distortion field. Upon impact, the matter undergoes gravitational collapse, creating a temporary black hole." "Temporary?" Commander Vexer's voice cracked slightly. His scaled features looked pale, his usual bravado gone. "Usually 3 minutes," Santos answered calmly. "Plenty of time to destroy anything within a few hundred kilometers." Dr. Yolandra, the astrophysicist, stepped forward, her scientific curiosity briefly stronger than her fear. "The energy requirements alone should be impossible. How do you power such a weapon?" Santos shrugged as if discussing routine engineering. "Quantum vacuum extraction. We tap into the zero-point energy field. It took about 15 years to figure out how to do it safely." "Safely," Kalani repeated, dread pooling in his stomach. The human smiled faintly, though her tone stayed matter-of-fact. "Well, we only lost 3 solar systems during the testing phase." The room erupted in gasps, hisses, and nervous clicking. "Yes." Several representatives nearly leaped from their seats. Commander Vexer slammed a clawed hand on the table. "You destroyed 3 solar systems." "Accidentally," Captain Santos clarified smoothly. "The early prototypes were unpredictable, but we've solved those bugs. The current generation of Galactic Destroyers has a 0% chance of causing uncontrolled collapse." Dr. Yolandra's voice trembled. 0%. Santos hesitated. "Well, 0.003%. But that's within acceptable parameters." Kalani felt his legs weaken again, and he sank heavily into his chair. He had seen civilizations destroy themselves through arrogance, but this was something different. The humans were not boasting, or not threatening. They were simply stating facts. Then, as though things were not already terrifying enough, Santos continued, "Of course, that's just our fighters. The capital ships are equipped with something far more powerful." Kalani's throat went dry. "What do you call them?" Santos's calm smile sharpened into something that chilled him. "Our newest dreadnought class is called the Universe Ender." The words hit the council like a physical blow. Several representatives fainted. The crystalline delegate Winder cracked sharply under the strain of fear. General Zarok, who had never once shown weakness, leaned heavily on the table for support. Kalani whispered, almost to himself, "You named a ship capable of destroying galaxies. The Universe Ender." Santos nodded casually. "Originally it was called the Cosmic Annihilator, but the marketing team thought that sounded too aggressive." "Too aggressive," Exa repeated faintly. "For a fighter ship, yes," Santos said smoothly. "We save names like that for our larger vessels." Kalani stared at her, horrified. For the first time in his life, he realized that the galaxy might have just discovered not only its most powerful alibit, also its most dangerous threat. The emergency session of the Galactic Federation Council had already lasted 18 long hours. Yet still, the delegates could not agree. The great amphitheater, normally a place of measured debate and calm discussion, had dissolved into near panic. Ambassador Kalani stood at the center podium, finishing his report. His words echoed against the domed ceiling, though most of the audience had already fallen into stunned silence. "To summarize," he said quietly, "the humans have created a fighter craft that can generate controlled black holes. They call it the Galactic Destroyer. They currently have 12,000 of these vessels, and they plan to build 50,000 more within 5 years." The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by nervous clicking, chirping, and low rumbles as the representatives of 847 species tried to process what they had just heard. Finally, High Chancellor Mord, a towering elder whose voice carried authority across the chamber, spoke. "Let me be clear. Are you telling us that a young species, with less than 30 years of space travel, has produced weapons capable of destroying entire solar systems?" Kalani's throat tightened, but he nodded. "Yes, High Chancellor, that is correct." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Representative Windar of the Crystalline Collective raised a glowing limb. And you mentioned something else. A capital ship, a universe ender. What of that? Kalani's chest tightened. According to Captain Santos, it has already destroyed a small galaxy during testing. In 6 hours, the council chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates leapt from their seats. Hundreds of translator devices overloaded as voices in countless languages shouted at once Sponic. Disbelief and anger blending into deafening noise. Some aquatic representatives nearly flooded their environment suits in distress, while insectoid delegates beat their wings in nervous bursts. Order, boomed Chancellor Mord, slamming her staff against the ground. The sound amplified across the chamber until the chaos subsided. Senator Velcris of the Andromedan Coalition rose, his bioluminescent patches flashing wildly. Rationally? You expect us to respond rationally when this species has weapons that make our combined fleets look like children's toys? Ambassador, the Sir of the Serpentine Republic, hissed in reply. Perhaps appeasement is the answer. We'll give them what they want. It's full military partnership, even a seat on the High Council. Better to have them inside our alliance than standing against it. General Zarak slammed his armored fist onto the railing. And what happens when they decide the Federation itself is in their way? What happens when the humans want more than partnership? Perhaps they do not mean harm, argued Dr. Nexian, the Federation's chief xenopsychologist. Perhaps they truly want peace. Peace. Zarak snapped. They admitted to destroying 3 solar systems during testing. Chancellor Mord raised her hands again. Enough, we need evidence, not speculation. Can we verify these claims? Kalani nodded grimly. I dispatched a probe to the Kepler 1086 system, one of the places the humans admitted losing during experiments. He activated his datapad, and the central display filled the chamber. Where once there had been 5 planets and a star, there was nothing. No wreckage, no orbit trails. Only a fading gravitational scar. Kalani's voice was heavy. The system is gone.
Destroyed.
Gone. As if it never existed. The chamber fell into stunned silence. The council chamber was still heavy with shock from the images of the erased solar system when Ambassador Kalani hesitated, then added words he had hoped never to speak. There is more, he said softly. His voice echoed across the chamber, pulling every delegate's attention back to him. High Chancellor Mord narrowed her eyes. More. Kalani's hands shook as he tapped the control panel. A new image filled the main display this time, a tactical map of the galaxy. Red markers glowed like fire across the void. Our deep space monitors have confirmed unusual activity in the Andromeda Galaxy, Kalani explained. The humans warned us about it. They were correct. A massive fleet is approaching. Murmurs of dread filled the chamber. How massive? Asked the Chancellor, her voice calm but tense. Conservative estimates suggest over 1 million ships, Kalani answered. Possibly more. The silence that followed was suffocating. Many delegates froze in place, their minds struggling to process the number. 1 million. Far beyond anything the Federation could face. General Zarak stood, his armor rattling with unease. Then it is true. The Devourers have returned. Gasps and cries filled the chamber. The word alone was enough to ignite terror. The Devourers were not just a threat from history, they were a nightmare. It's an ancient enemy that had nearly destroyed the galaxy 3 million years ago. It had taken 100 civilizations fighting together to drive them back. And most of those civilizations no longer existed. They were supposed to be extinct. Shouted Senator Velcris, his bioluminescent skin pulsing with panic. Apparently not, Kalani said grimly.
Our scans confirm their fleet is moving toward Federation space.
At their current speed, they will arrive in 18 months. The chamber erupted again, this time in pure chaos. Some delegates shouted for immediate evacuation plans. Others called for strengthening defenses. Few whispered that perhaps the humans' terrifying weapons were their only hope. Our fleet numbers only 50,000 vessels, General Zarak said darkly. Against 1 million Devourers, we will be slaughtered. And yet, Dr. Nexian spoke carefully, his voice trembling but calm. If the humans truly possess the weapons they claim, then perhaps 50,000 Galactic Destroyers could turn the tide. Or, Zarak snapped, Perhaps we are trading one destroyer for another. Do you not see? If the humans defeat the Devourers, what happens after? Who will stop them then? Before anyone could respond, the chamber's communication array crackled to life. A familiar voice filled the space, smooth and unsettling. "Greetings, honorable members of the Galactic Federation Council," Captain Maria Santos said pleasantly. "I hope you don't mind the interruption. We detected unusual energy signatures in your sector and wanted to make sure everything was all right." Every head in the chamber turned toward the central display. Captain Santos now stood on the bridge of a massive warship, not in a conference room. Behind her, glowing panels and armored crew members moved with disciplined precision. Kalani's stomach dropped. Whatever the humans were about to reveal, he knew it would change everything. The image of Captain Maria Santos on the main display filled the council chamber with uneasy silence. She stood tall on the bridge of a colossal warship, the hum of machines and the quiet movement of her crew behind her. Her calm voice carried across the amphitheater. "Oh, and before anyone worries," she continued pleasantly, "we've been monitoring the Devourer fleet. Our forces are already moving to intercept them before they reach Federation space." It seemed like the neighborly thing to do. High Chancellor Mord leaned forward, her voice sharp. "Captain Santos, how many ships do you have in this operation?" Santos smiled. "Currently, about 300,000. The chamber erupted in gasps in alarm. Delegates shouted over each other, translators buzzing frantically as hundreds of languages spilled panic into the air. The Federation fleet was only 50,000 vessels in total, yet the humans claimed 6 times that number, and calmly, Ambassador Kalani felt his chest tighten. "What? But you told us you had exploration vessels and fighters only." Santos tilted her head slightly as though amused. "Well, we've been busy since our last meeting. Devourer threat encouraged us to accelerate our construction schedule. And your historical archives gave us inspiration? You accessed our archives?" Mord demanded, her voice carrying steel. "Only the non-classified sections," Santos answered smoothly. "Though I must say, your security systems are quite outdated. Our AI cracked them in 30 seconds. She shrugged as if brushing away a minor inconvenience. "In any case, the information on Devourer technology was very helpful. We've made a few improvements of our own." The display shifted again, zooming in on the human fleet. The delegates froze as they saw the terrifying outlines of warships unlike anything in Federation service. These were not exploration vessels. These were Leviathans. Dr. Nexian whispered the words before anyone else could. "Universe Enders," yes, Santos said, her calm tone making the revelation even more horrifying. "Mark II models. We managed to reduce the time needed to destroy a galaxy from 6 hours to just 90 minutes. Efficient, don't you think?" Senator Velcris rose shakily, his glowing skin flickering like a storm. How many of these monstrosities do you have currently operational?" Santos paused briefly as if checking a list. 50, but another 200 are under construction. They should be ready within 6 months sooner if needed. The council chamber fell into chaos once more. Some delegates screamed, others fainted. Many simply sat frozen in shock, unable to believe what they were hearing. Ambassador Kalani stood rooted to the floor, staring at the display. Humanity had gone from a young, inexperienced species to a galactic juggernaut in only a few decades. And they spoke of weapons that could erase galaxies as casually as farmers, discussing their harvest. "Do not be afraid," Santos said kindly, her smile unwavering. "We only wish to help. When the Devourers arrive, we'll make sure they never trouble this galaxy again." But her words brought little comfort. For in the eyes of every delegate, one thought burned brighter than all others. What happens when the humans decide the Federation itself is no longer useful? The chamber had fallen into a stunned silence. For the first time in living memory, the Galactic Federation's greatest minds and strongest leaders had no answers. All of their fleets, their history, their carefully built alliances suddenly felt like fragile toys compared to the humans' calm display of unimaginable power. Ambassador Kalani's throat was dry, forced himself to speak. Though his voice came out weaker than he intended, "Captain Santos, why are you telling us this? Why reveal such terrible strength?" On the display, Captain Santos's smile never wavered. Her eyes, however, glimmered with something far more dangerous than words. Because we want to be friends, she said softly. The Federation is known for peace and cooperation. We respect that. We want to be part of it. And if we refuse your application? Chancellor Morta asked carefully, her voice steady, though her ancient hands trembled at her sides. Santos's smile remained, but her tone carried a razor's edge. We would be disappointed, of course. But we trust you will make the right decision. The words were polite, yet everyone in the chamber understood what they truly meant. Refusal was not an option. Through the wide observation windows of the council hall, Kalani could see the human fighter returning to its carrier. So small, so ordinary-looking, yet capable of erasing entire star systems. He dared to ask one last question. How many of these galactic destroyers do you truly have? Santos answered without hesitation. 12,000. Production lines are expanding. Our goal is 50,000 within 5 years. One for every Federation member world just in case. Kalani's knees weakened. 50,000. Enough to enforce humanity's will upon the galaxy itself. The captain's tone brightened, as though she had remembered something casual. Oh, an ambassador. When you discuss this with your council, you may want to mention one other detail. Our long-range sensors detected unusual activity in Andromeda. The Devourer fleet is larger than expected. It should arrive in about 18 months. At the mention of the Devourers, a wave of dread rippled through the chamber. The ancient nightmare was returning, and the humans claimed they were ready. Preparing how? Kalani asked, though part of him didn't want to know. Captain Santos paused at the door of her warship's bridge. Her smile turned colder, sharper, something that made Kalani's very bones tremble. Let's just say. When the Devourers arrive, they will finally understand why we named our fighter the Galactic Destroyer. And more importantly, they will learn why we built 50,000 of them. The transmission ended. The chamber was left in heavy silence. Kalani stared out at the stars beyond the council hall. In that endless darkness, humanity had risen in only a few decades to stand above every other civilization. But were they the galaxy's saviors or its future conquerors? No one could answer.